Hi, this is Stacey Tonkin with Beyond the Table, and we have a great special guest here today, Kelly Fisher. I'm sure everyone knows that she is one of the top players in the world. She has won over 30 titles just here in the US, and she's been playing since she was about 13 years old. She is going to give us some insight into her mental game. And before we do, I'd just like to see if she wants to say a couple of things about the last few tournaments she's been in and some of the impacts of the bigger events she's been in lately.
Well, hi guys, it's a pleasure to be in here. Thank you very much, Stacey, for inviting me. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, but great to see you again also. I hope you guys tune in and enjoy what you see. Yeah, I think, for me, these last few years, I've had pretty good, decent years, really. Last year wasn't as good, but certainly the year before it, and obviously pre-COVID and just after COVID, I had a great year. So I think, I reckon the best time I had was right after COVID, where I managed to, believe it or not, win 10 events in a row. And I mean, that was pretty unique accomplishment, I feel. And it was just like I were on a roll, and no matter what I did, it was one tournament after the other, and the confidence that I gained seemed to just grow and grow per event. But when I realized it was so many events in a row, and I managed to get 10 tournaments in a row, so very proud of that. We can talk a little bit about the mental side of that later in the show. And yeah, I'm pleased to be here. That's the most
Great.
important thing.
So we had some questions for you that I think is really going to help. So our first question was, what mental tricks help you to stay calm when you're playing in front of a crowd or feeling nervous? If you feel nervous at all, you might not.
Of course, any player that tells you they don't feel nervous is probably telling a little porcupine. No matter what level and no matter how much you've practiced, how many years you've played, and how many events you play in, I do think nerves still come into it for sure. Don't get me wrong, with experience, you certainly are able to cope with it better, and you learn how to cope with yourself, actually. You have to pay attention to different scenarios. What makes you under pressure and when? Is it when you look behind? Is it when you miss a shot? Is it when you're sitting in your seat? Is it when you approach the table? What part of the match or game is it where you become most nervous? Once you kind of figure out that, I think then you can start to try and different things. I mean, for example, I was very young back in the UK playing snooker, and my parents and my coach took me to a sports mental coach, if you like, or a
Oh, wow.
psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a sports psychologist, actually, that's the correct term.
Okay.
And yeah, this sports psychologist, the one thing I mean, I was a kid, but the one thing I took from that, and it still sticks with me today, is breathing. And he
Oh,
gave me various breathing techniques, because it's different when you're sitting in your seat compared to when you're at the table. Don't want to give too many of my secrets away, but it's certainly breathing is very important.
yeah.
But first and foremost is being aware of at what moment do you get the most nervous. Once you've figured that out, because a lot of people, is it on the nine, or if you're playing nine ball, is it on the eight if you're playing eight ball, and so on? Or is it when you're sitting in your seat, after you've missed a shot?
Yeah.
Everybody's very unique. But the
Okay.
second thing I'd like to say is, in order to help control and improve on that area of your game, you have to put yourself in that position more often. So a
Yeah.
lot of players that just practice and play once a week, twice a week, and get nervous when they have a league match once a week or whatever,
Right.
you need to put yourself in a match situation more often. I don't necessarily want to, promote gambling at all, but if you do play for a little bit of money, against your friends or against people that can put you in that pressured feeling,
Yeah.
then that certainly can help you improve that area of the game, or go to more events, play more tournaments, play more league matches, whatever it is that's holding you back or that's creating that nervousness. You have to put yourself in that position to learn and it gain the experience to learn how to deal with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you push your ceiling, right? Like, so
Correct.
keep pushing the
Correct.
ceiling
So,
that
and
you're
then obviously, being aware of what makes you nervous and what moment is it that you're most nervous about, and try and focus on, even in practice, for example, some players I've heard, not myself, but some players I've heard, the shot clock, that puts them under pressure. It's not necessarily nerves, but it puts them under a rushing feeling,
right, right,
and they
right.
miss silly shots. So the top professionals that have that problem, you'll find in their practice room or in the pool hall, they've got a shot clock
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
and they'll practice for hours and hours against the shot clock until they get used to it, until
yeah,
they can adapt and deal with that situation. So
okay.
that's the most important thing. And put all that together
That's
and you've
great.
got it, you've nailed
Yeah,
it.
that's like a good foundation to even just like start, because a mental game is so in depth, like you said, that's like where you start, right? Like breathing,
That's right.
and then like
The thing
learning.
is, me and Alison Fisher have said collectively we've got over 70 years of experience. I've been playing
So crazy.
30 something years total from when I was 12, 13. He also has been playing 40 something years. And we can put them years together, over 70 years of playing, practicing, training competitively. And even still, there's no trick. We don't know the magic answer, how to play at your best all the time, how not to be under pressure,
Right,
there's no answers, there's no tricks, there's no magic. All you can do is do your best at that moment, at that time. So one last thing I'd say is, while you're at the table or while you're in a match, I always try to stay present. I don't try and look back on the mistakes I've already made, and I don't try and look forward onto what I wish. I hope I win. I hope I don't lose. I don't want to miss this shot. I need to make this
right,
shot. I just try and stay present in that moment and deal with that shot, match, game, competition
right.
at the that moment in time.
Oh,
So that's
that's perfect. Yeah, and actually you already, that was the second question that you answered. How do you reset your mind after making a mistake? You stay in the moment, you don't go
yeah.
back, and you just
Yeah,
keep
that's
moving.
exactly right. Sorry, Stacey, I've kind of put them two together there. I got rolling, but yeah,
That's
basically that's where I was going, leading on to is, you have to stay present. Um, and that is the most important thing after you miss a shot, if you're behind in a match, all that same, they all link together,
right.
that creates nervousness. It creates putting you under pressure, it creates the heart to race faster. That's where the breathing comes in to slow down the
Yep,
heart rate.
I've noticed that.
So everything links together, but definitely staying present. Now, there's one app out there that basically what it does is it's a meditation, and it's for sport.
Oh, really?
Um,
What is it?
it's called Headspace.
Oh, okay.
And
I've heard of
I
it.
think you can use it for multiple things, but they have a sporting area in it, and it's brilliant.
I didn't know
And
they had that. That's interesting. Okay.
that's where I got the staying present. And I kind of must have been doing it already in my own way.
I'm sure you.
But since I had that app tell me that in the meditation and talked about that more, I've learned how to deal with that more and more efficiently, because I'm aware of staying present, whereas before I weren't aware of that. So certainly Headspace, a lot of the national team coaches get their kids, like for example the Hong Kong national team. I know all their the teammates and all the players. A lot of them use the Headspace. So yeah, I
That's
need to
good
get
to
them to
know,
sponsor
because
me.
a lot of us lower players, like I coach some of the, players under me, and I tell them similar things like that, that I learned from you guys. And I say, hey guys, meditation, take your time, because to them, when they're lower players, they don't really see the connection between your mind and the game. They're just like, oh, I practice. Or some of the players that are like, 600 levels, they practice and they play in tournaments and stuff. And I says, but your tilt level is still here, right? Like if you go to a tournament, and like I play in 600 tournaments and stuff like that, and then I said if you play a 700 or above, it's not the same game. It's their mind and their headspace are in a different place, because you, as you can see, you have so much knowledge on how you've developed your thought process and developed your brain and developed your emotions. and connected it all with your skill. And so there's a whole person there. And so a lot of people who aren't to your level, of course, most of the world that isn't to your level is because they have to connect those two, right? Like some of them are making small connections and they're making more connections. And so, and that's what I developed this podcast about, is I want people to see that, you have to take care of that mental side of you. And it's like you said, it's all the time, right? Like you can't be a maniac out in the world and then think you're going to be peaceful at the pool table. Like
No, correct.
you
No, I
are.
mean, of course, everybody's got different personalities. Some people are more calmer than other people's away from the table. But basically, our sport, it doesn't give you any much room for anger, because the minute you get angry, that creates a different emotion that then is very difficult to maintain a calm,
Dial it back. Yeah, you can't.
balanced game. So, everybody has got different personalities, but when it comes down to our sport, simply because of the nature of the sport, it's not like boxing or a physical sport where you can get a little bit of your anger out.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's all mental once you're at the table, and all you've got to do is bring your practice game to the table, which is easier said than done. That's another area. How do you bring the practice game to the match
Right.
game? That's a whole new ball game, because again, it's just experience and putting yourself in that position in a match situation over and over again, so that you can bring your A game
Right.
anyway, but from practice to competition.
Wow, those were such great things. And so my last thing was that if you had one piece of advice to give players out there, especially juniors or people that are at the very lower levels, but they want to be one day where you are, or close to where you are, because that would take a lifetime. What would you tell them from your heart? What would you say if you really had to sit down and tell someone something that's starting out or really wants to be
Well,
a great player?
I always say to juniors, you have to love the game. I mean, for kids, they have to. There's so many sports out there. There's so many gaming things out there now, unfortunately, that are taking them away from sport. So anybody that really, comes into the billiard world, I think it's addictive, like any sport. I do
Yeah,
believe that once you start playing, you want to get better and better. But you have to love the game. You have to have a passion for the game, because the hours of practice that's required to get to the level of a top professional, it's a lot, and it's a lot of dedication, it's a lot of sacrifice, it's a lot of focus and mental torture. When you lose, it really is. You have to be so headstrong, and then you have to be have a big heart under pressure, but mentally you have to be strong, because it does throw curveballs at you, and it's a cruel game. In competitions, we've all experienced that. So I think that first of all, you have to love the game, and if you love the game and have a passion to play, then you have to be willing to have the discipline and sacrifice to put into the game. Otherwise, you're always going to be deflated
yeah.
of the defeats, and it's going to create you not to enjoy it. So I think the most important thing is, make sure you love the game, give it all you've got, and don't take the losses too hard. And one main
Great.
sentence or line that I like to say is, to be a champion, you need to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win.
That is that is the best. That is a great like ending note, because I'm glad that you said that, because I've learned that from other players like you and other players that have told me in the past. And I tell a lot of the lower players that I say, if you lose for every reason there is to lose, then you don't have to lose, right? Like, and you just have to appreciate losing, because it's a catalyst for getting better. And if you love the
Well,
game, you have to
that's
love,
right.
right? You have to love the misses as much as you love the makes, because
Well, that's how the thing is, what people don't realize is, if you didn't miss, how do you learn? You learn from your mistakes, you learn from the losses, then believe me, I missed a 9 ball in the World Championships to get to the final. It was in the semi-final. I was on the hill, and I missed the 9 ball. And if I rewind back to playing Allison in the US Open back in 2007, I made the 8, but my cue ball, the 9 ball was nearly near the spot. and I made the 8 in the side, and the cue ball hit the 9 and scratched in the corner. Now, every
Oh,
time I mean, obviously I was distraught of losing that. That was on the hill again too, and then she
oh,
broke and ran,
oh
and
God.
we won the US Open at that point. So I was absolutely gutted. But now, all them years later, that was 2007, and we're now in 25. Whenever I have that similar shot, I remember how to avoid that 9 ball. If it's in the same layout or similar layout, I know how to avoid that 9 ball. I'm not saying I will never do it again, but I don't believe I have done that same similar shot again.
Right.
And I'll do everything to avoid it. So that stuck with me,
That's
but in a positive way, not in a negative way.
right.
Same with the last year in the semi-final against Soa Soa when I missed a 9 ball to get to the final.
Wow.
Now, again, I am going to miss that 9 ball again. I know I am. But I'm more careful. I remember getting down, and I decided initially to play it with stun draw around the 2 angles. And while I was down, I changed my mind. I thought, no, just roll it in, like just pot it plain ball, make it
Okay.
plain ball. And because I changed my mind at that last moment, I missed the shot. I got down on the shot,
Yeah,
allowing to stun it in around the angles with probably a little bit of left.
I know
And
exactly
I
what you're talking
decided
about.
to play plain ball. And in the end, I missed the shot. So again, I learned something from that.
Yeah,
I'm not to say I'm never gonna change my mind again, but I won't do it as often. It's stuck with me, but for positive reasons.
yeah,
And that's how you've got to learn. So back to that one line that I said, or that one
right.
sentence is, you've got to learn from them mistakes. You've got to learn from them losses in order to learn how to win and to learn how to be a champion, because you're going to lose. And if you can't learn how to lose,
Yeah.
then you'll keep losing and you'll probably quit. So
Oh God.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Learn how to
Thank
lose
you for
to learn how to
sharing
be a champion and win.
all of those stories and all of those misses, because like that's so important for us to hear that us lower level players, when we do that, that is where we're going. So thank you so much for being
No
with us
problem.
today and for sharing all of this. And we're looking forward to seeing you in your next event. I'm sure that you're going to continue to win and do great. And
Well, thank you. And I just want everybody to know, I wish I was here in this sunny beach with the palm trees and everything, but unfortunately I'm not. But it does look good, and I hope you all like it. And again, thank you, Stacey. Great seeing you again. And I hope you get many viewers tuning in, and we'll do another one later.
super. Thanks again.